Hi, my name is Emily Dorn, and today I'm going to be discussing improving statistical analysis and reporting with Doctor of Nursing practice students. A little bit about me before we dig into the presentation is that I am a biostatistics master's student, and I am a graduate research assistant with the nursing department, and my main job is to help the DNP students with their data collection, data reporting, statistical analysis, and reporting of their results. So let's dig in. We're going to cover in this presentation in the introduction and background section why it's important to understand statistics and how to help the nursing students understand statistics. And then we'll discuss a quality improvement project I conducted with the assistance of Dr. Davis, and that was using an audit analysis. And then we'll talk about some of the things that we implemented in response to what we saw with the quality improvement project and the conclusion of what we have currently. So let's get into the introduction and background. Why is it important for nursing students to understand statistics? So the first reason that it's important for them to understand statistics is evidence-based practice. And evidence-based practice is using evidence to make decisions about patient care. So according to literature, many educators believe that learning statistics is essential for evidence-based practice, and that the nursing profession is guided by evidence-based practice. So it's really important to be able to connect the understanding of statistics to evidence-based practice so that they can be used in conjunction with one another. Furthermore, it's also important that the students gain proficiency in statistics, because even if students have a basic understandings of definitions of statistical measures, they need to be able to apply those statistical measures appropriately, and application can sometimes be different than definition. So it's really important to connect application to what things mean and that sort of thing. Finally, it's really important for nursing students to know how to read, interpret, and, as we just said, apply statistics within their nursing profession. So previous literature has also stated that the skill of reading and interpreting research reports is vital and contributes to the development of a sound basis for nursing intervention. So it's really important for students to be able to understand statistics so that they can use it in nursing intervention. And not only that, but nurses must become proficient in the evaluation of research findings and the development and implementation of evidence-based practice guidelines, which includes basic statistical analysis as a component of the research process. So it's saying part of the research process is very involves statistical analysis. So for students to be able to apply the research, that evidence-based practice that has been shown to work, they need to have an understanding of statistics to do so. So what aids us in helping DNP students understand statistics? First, it's been shown that higher level students tend to have a less positive relationship with statistics than lower level students. And shown in one study, participants being at the 5th semester of studies had higher post-test scores compared to those being at a higher than 5th semester of studies. And that just indicates to us that, continual practice is needed to apply statistics, because higher level students, they may have taken a statistics class in their undergrad, or even I think in the second year of 5 years, the DNP students have classes, they take statistics. So making sure that they're keeping up on statistical understanding and just using statistics in general so they don't forget what they've learned is really important. Otherwise, they may lose all that they learned. It was also found that postgraduate medical students developed more negative attitudes after completing a statistics course. And the study hypothesized that this could have been due to advanced and complex statistical knowledge that was provided, which could have negatively affected their self-confidence with statistics. And I think this is a legitimate thing. As a biostatistics master's student, I know that statistics is a very broad field with so many different parts to it. And it's not just black and white. Oftentimes results or the use of tests is up to a person's own interpretation, and that can be a very overwhelming thing. So it can be, maybe a little bit more of a negative attitude about it just because it's so overwhelming to a person. Despite that previous finding, another study found that students who are exposed to statistics and have used it in a class setting will tend to have a more positive attitude towards it after. It was found that nursing students' fear and anxiety about statistics dropped by 40% after a statistics course, which intended to be implied, engaging, and enjoyable. And also, the attitude of a student is important because it can be a factor in influencing the mastery of important concepts. So that just tells us that it's really important for us to focus on encouraging and nurturing positive attitudes with statistics, particularly in some of these higher level students, just because statistics can be so overwhelming and so broad. And so, hopefully some of the things that we're implementing later on will encourage that positive attitude that will stick with them and help them be more likely to retain and use statistics. Finally, nursing students can often recite definitions but lack the ability to integrate statistical concepts. And we touched on this previously, but it was found that students can define mean, median, mode, and standard deviation, but they often have issues applying those statistical concepts. And as said previously, application is really important in the nursing profession to be able to help improve that patient care. So that's something that we want to make sure is that when the DNP students are working on their dissertations, they're gaining the skills they need to apply it when they go out into their field. With this information in mind, a quality improvement project was conducted with the goal of demonstrating that the nursing department is taking measures to help improve DNP students' understanding of statistics. So this summer of 2020, I audited 25 dissertations of GVSU DNP students that were in ScholarWorks from 2019. And we're going to discuss the results of this project. So first, let's look at the number of correct statistical analyses. So there were 13 people who did correct statistical analyses out of 25, and that is about 50%, a little over. And then we have 9 students who mostly did their statistical analyses correct. So with those two combined, it's not too bad. Most of the students did at least do mostly their analyses correct, but there is room for improvement for sure in reporting statistical analyses and doing them correctly. So we also looked at the most common statistical measures used. The most common measure used was descriptive statistics, and that is great because in most situations you should and can be using descriptive statistics to report your data and your findings. 9 students used chi-square tests and 4 students used Fisher's exact tests, and both of those tests analyze categorical data. So that just tells us likely that those are the tests we need to focus on, maybe making sure that students understand. And it makes sense because I think a lot of the data that nursing students work with is qualitative in nature, so that makes sense. The last result that we have here is looking at the common issues in statistical reporting. So the most common issue is that no test statistic was reported, or it was reported incorrectly. The next two most common statistical reporting problems were lack of graphs, or the graphs were used incorrectly, or the other one is statistical test used in their analysis was not specified appropriately. And oftentimes I saw that the students they may say at one spot what test they use, perhaps in their method section, but in their results section, when they're actually reporting the results of the analysis that they did, they may not mention what test it was, or they may have not really mentioned it at all sometimes throughout the paper. So just making sure that we have students doing that as well. So with these results in mind, the information we've gained from the audit analysis, we had a few ideas for what we could implement to hopefully help nurture that better statistical understanding, as well as more knowledge and ability to use and report statistics correctly. First thing that we did was create reference documents for nursing students to use when they're writing their statistical results in their dissertations. And the first document for helping writing results was compiled for a series of statistical tests and involves examples of reporting and interpretation, as well as what the tests are intended for, what kind of data they're intended to be used with, and that sort of thing. With Dr. Davis's assistance, these documents were created, and so another document was also created for graphical reporting and creation for the students to use as well. And that hopefully will help address some of those common issues that we were seeing in the audit analysis, such as reporting of test statistics, what test was used, and also how to, report graphs and use them correctly with your data. The second thing that we did was having the students attempt their own analysis. Previously, the nursing graduate research assistant who helps do the statistics of the DNP students' dissertations has, usually we meet with the students in the fall and discuss how to do, if they're doing their data collection properly, to answer their research objectives, how to create data codebooks, that sort of thing. And then in the spring, we meet with them to discuss the data that they've collected for their project and what we can actually do to analyze that data. And previously, the research assistant would just do the analysis for the students after this meeting, but this year I instead would meet with a student, tell them what tests we would probably use, and have them go off and do the analysis on their own. And I would send them resources to help them do that, so that they weren't completely dealing with the unknown. And then if they had any issues, any problems, or they wanted me to check their analysis, then they could email me, set up a meeting, and we could go over it and make sure what they did was correct. But having them do it then hopefully help decrease their anxiety towards using statistics and help them better understand statistical analysis, so that they can report it correctly when they're writing their dissertations, report in their results correctly. Another thing that I really tried to do was explain concepts in meetings. And basically what I mean by that is explaining why we would use one statistical test over another, or why we couldn't use a statistical test for a reason or another, because a lot of statistical tests involve assumption checking and that sort of thing. So being able to explain that hopefully will help them understand two situations when they can use statistical tests and measures, and other situations when they can't. Lastly, We hope in the future to implement virtual workshops. We weren't able to get to that this year, but we think that implementing the workshops will enable students to get even more statistical help with their data collection and reporting and analysis, and just interact with each other so that they can learn more about each other's projects, and also hopefully just learn about each other's struggles and learn from each other's issues that they've been having with their data. So in conclusion, we're still in the process of implementing the measures we just discussed, and we're not able right now to fully determine the full impact of these changes. But hopefully the results of this project will be shown in future dissertation papers. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed this presentation and learned something.